In March of 2018 and 2019 season, the NCAA profited $867.5 million from the March Madness tournament. Now that's only from the marketing and television aspect. They also brought in $177.9 million from ticket sales through that tournament. And now that's only from one sport, from one tournament, and from one division. Imagine the money they make from all sports, all events, and all divisions. The numbers are mind-blowing. And this is where I believe the NCAA can in some way give payments to their athletes in all divisions. One thing about the NCAA is that student athletes are labeled as athletes and not employees. Another thing about payments is that student athlete payments don't always need to be money. And finally, the people who advocate for all these athletes tend to differ. Now on to student athlete or student employee. The student athlete states that the student athlete is there for school and then the athletics. They believe that academics come first, followed by the athletics, which we all know in cases is not very true. But from one source, Mitchell and Edelman, they state the idea that the break in academic payments is enough for them to be satisfied without being labeled as student employees. What this really means is that they get enough money from scholarships for academics that they really shouldn't need any other money. Mitchell and Edelman also state that the students are not professional athletes, so why should they be paid? And this point really hits home because college athletes indeed put in more work than professionals do. The college part is the hardest part. That's where you're trying to grind and get your name out there and achieve a higher level. So with an example as this is one of the interviews I did is my friend who plays for the Wisconsin Badgers men's hockey team, and he talked about their daily routine, and it's a lot. They wake up, they do conditioning, they got practice, then they go to class, then they have team meetings, dinner, and then another practice at night. So they're doing about 4 physical activities along with class and homework on top of that. And the same goes for here at UWO. We have pretty much all of the same things. A few less because we're restricted with contact, but it's all relatively the same. Which hints at the point of student employee. Student employee states that a student is paid by the university. And from that same source, Mitchell and Edelman, they also state that the student employee would lose focus of their education, which I disagree with this point. This point states that with them being paid for their athletic performances, they would lose the academic side of that, which I believe is totally incorrect. If I were to be paid to play, I would have the drive and the focus to remain eligible and still receive that paycheck. Mitchell and Edelman also state that the goal of the NCAA is to make sure the student has a great academic experience along with a great athletic experience, so then they can get away with labeling everyone as a student athlete rather than a student employee, which we all know in NCAA we really are all employed by them, just not paid. Money-wise, student athletes don't always mean money by the payments. For example, there are many different ways that student athletes could get some hardship lifted off them by the NCAA. One of those, for example, here at UWL, we could use allowing athletes to have early registration. Athletes have a way more demanding schedule than a regular student. In most cases, there are people who work, but we are not allowed to schedule classes anywhere from 1:30 p.m. until 7 p.m., which is a huge chunk of time, and a lot of classes and upper levels are offered during that time. And another one would be that involves money but not direct money to a student would be waiving roster fees. Here at UWL, for us to try out, it's $50, which isn't much, but then as soon as you make the team, you're charged with a $175 roster fee from every single person on the team, which adds up to a lot, and it's a big chunk coming out of your pocket for making the team. Another way they could an athlete at the Division III level could receive payments would be allowing athletic facilities and trainers to be available year round. UWL actually during the summer closes their AT center. They are only open for select few. If you set appointments, you can maybe get in to see the head athletic trainer, but it's very difficult, and we train during the summer and injuries can happen. Along with that, they also close the weight room for select hours, which makes it super hard when a student athlete at UWL is working during the summer 40 plus hours a week to pay for their school, to pay for athletic fees, their football equipment, all of that stuff, which would be very difficult when the rec center and the weight room only have select hours. Along with the payment comes the ideas of different athletes in different divisions. For example, I have two friends who play at the Division I level for hockey, and they are both on full scholarship, which they had an entirely different outlook than I did on the NCAA and the profits they make. For example, my Division I friends, they're both on full scholarship, so academics is paid for. Their rent comes with that scholarship check, so my buddy that lives in Madison, his $1,000 rent check is paid for. Their food on and off campus includes payments, and their entire wardrobe, their clothes, they're paid for. They give them free clothes. And so I know that's not direct money to their pockets, but in some way, shape, or form, it is a little. It's a payment. It's nice. It'd be nice to have. At the Division III level, the viewpoints are totally different. For example, I interviewed one of my roommates, and he as well as a football player at UWL, and the outlook is totally different. We wish we could get free clothes. We wish we could have our rent paid for. We didn't have to work, but we do, and that's the life of it. That's just what the NCAA says. Is that, well, you didn't make D1 or D2, so you got to pay for everything. Which is not entirely wrong, because yes, we haven't achieved as much athletic success as a lot of the Division I athletes have, but it would still be nice to receive some sort of reward for our efforts. Along with the money side of a Division III athlete seeing things different, we also don't understand the grind point, because Division I and Division III athletes really have no difference. It almost is harder at Division III, because at Division III, you put all the stresses of the athletic sport on top of being able to pay. I know there's many examples of Division III athletes that were amazing, could have went on to the next level, but just ran out of money and couldn't afford to be in college. And along with the money aspect, we also have to work out twice a day and do homework on top of all that. Athletes in all divisions deserve payments for their efforts. When I talk about efforts, I mean the time, the work, and the sacrifices made to be in that sport along with that school and receive a good education. Now I know in Division I and II they are not paid, but they are given payments. They are rewarded for their efforts. Division III, we pay to play. I know Division III colleges can't offer scholarships because most Division III colleges are small schools. They don't have money for that. But there are so many different ways to reward their athletes. Many athletes differ on the opinion, and it mainly has to deal with the division aspect. Finally, athletes in all divisions should seek out to their dean or the higher levels and try to work some sort of benefit/payment plan to help all of the athletes.